glad, because I don't know how to do any of that stuff. I would be
Not my area. Yeah.
lost. Yeah, we're lucky we have Cece as our producer, huh?
But gets me the talent instead.
Yes, that's who we are. We're the talent. That is what they
Yes.
call it, huh? I love that.
Hmm.
Well,
Yeah.
and here we are being our talented self talking about dating.
Yes, we are.
Christine, hi, Barry.
Hi, Christine.
Such a great subject today. I love the visual, the big green eye.
Yes.
Yeah,
The green eyed monster.
it is. It is because, oh, we've all felt that way. We've all felt jealous for a whole bunch of things to do with relationships and not.
Hmm.
And you came up with the rest of the word. So I'm going to give you 100% credit that it's not your friend. I love that. That was
Right.
great. Because it's not. We think we're justified. We think we have good reasons. We think we're going to get back at them. And it really is, that goes along with that saying of you're drinking poison and expecting it to affect the other person.
Right.
Yeah. Jealousy's
Because
so
jealousy and resentment are very much tied together as well. So it's very true.
very,
Yes. Yeah.
very much. Yeah. So I was thinking about this. I'm sure you are too. You always were so good about thinking about it ahead of time because we take this seriously
Hmm.
about all the reasons that people feel jealous, and some of them that are really justified and some of them that are kind of made up. So I thought that might be a really good place to start as the foundation because, as I said, we've all felt it before.
Right. And the thing is also there's the context of jealousy inside a relationship and also jealousy when you're single. So there's like
Yes.
both sides of that too. So we can play with both of those.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yeah. Jealous of what people have, jealous of what we don't have. And
Right.
yeah. And I found that I can use it good fuel, and I can also use it to be very debilitating.
Oh yeah. Again, why is not your friend?
Yeah, not good. So some of the reasons that I have felt jealousy and that I've listened to my clients talk about jealousy is if you're in a relationship and you think the other person is talking to somebody else or giving attention to somebody else and taking attention away from you, and at first blush, that's a pretty justified reason to feel jealous if you're not getting your needs met. And we'll I'm going to put a little side note over here of whether or not you've talked about it and whether or not you have a commitment about it. We'll just stay with, you feel like you're in a relationship and you feel like they're spreading their attention around.
Right.
Yeah.
Because part of that is the sense. First of all, this whole thing about trust and also about um, really being safe and comfortable. With some people, it's like when they're in a relationship, they're so worried about someone invading their relationship or doing something else that they feel very defensive. And so that anything that threatens their relationship is really scary to them. So, first of all, there's like, because in some ways, jealousy can be a clue. It
Mm-hmm.
can be a warning sign saying, you start to get jealous, notice why you might be feeling that.
Mm-hmm.
With my clients, it's like, when that's happened, looking back at past relationships, because my clients is pretty much, thinking much everyone except one of my clients is always single. So one of my clients was in a relationship, and most of them are single. And that understanding of looking back at your past relationships and seeing where that monster reared its green-eyed head, so to speak, what was the clue? Because they look back now, especially in hindsight, sometimes they look at that and go, that was the first sign I knew it was going to be over.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes jealousy is something actually has happened. For most
Mm-hmm.
people, though, jealousy hasn't actually happened. Jealousy is the fear of the unknown or the fear of what could happen when it didn't happen.
Right. That's such a good point. So really learning, and how do you learn when you're in the midst of it? Because often it's so much easier to see it. Hindsight is 2020. Is there really a concrete reason for feeling jealous?
Mm-hmm.
Because what I know for a fact is a lot of times the part that you were talking about is our basic insecurity, our basic lack of self-confidence, that we don't believe that they'll stay with us. We don't believe we're worthy of having a wonderful, committed future relationship, that we are constantly on guard. We're constantly worried, and it's coming from us. It's
Mm-hmm.
not the outside person, because we'll talk about that, what happens with outside people. But most often I have found it starts with us feeling not good enough,
Yeah.
not not secure enough in our own worth.
And also the attachment, because part of this, and it's this interesting work, is when you start doing the real deep work and spiritual work, you start really valuing who you are. When you're in a relationship, you realize that's adding to who you are. It's funny. I posted a meme today about how ratio, not 50-50, 100-100, which is in my book. And the thing is that a lot of people go into a relationship thinking the other person completes them, makes them feel whole. So when there's a risk to that wholeness, they feel very threatened. But if you really get to understand that we are individually all whole already, if you're in a relationship with somebody and something out there is starting to threaten that energy, firstly, you don't take it personally. And secondly, you start to look at it from a much more centered place. I'm not saying it's not bad, because if something is happening, like someone's threatening your partner's commitment to you, that's also very telling, because another layer is, I mean, there's so many layers there to talk about this on, but another layer of that is, if your partner is being tempted by somebody else, are they really meant to be yours in the first place?
Right.
And secondly, are you doing all that you really want to do in that relationship to keep them? Because maybe you're just not putting the effort in.
Yep.
So there's lots of different ways of looking at jealousy. It's like, oh, opportunities for improvement. Maybe I should be detached. It's all these pieces.
So much. And I had the same conversation today that she's been in she's a new client, and she's been in a relationship for a little while, and it hasn't been satisfying. And one of the words she kept using was, I feel like he keeps pulling the rug out from underneath me. And I said, so let's look at where your value and your self-worth is coming from. And it was coming from him.
Right.
So when he didn't give it, for whatever reason, because there was a variety of reasons that were really very logical, and then some insensitive things, she was already on this really not very firm foundation, because she didn't understand her own value. So yes, it was easy that when his actions or reactions weren't to her liking, it sent her off kilter and made her feel like the rug was pulled out from beneath her. So much of the way we react to getting to even thinking about being jealous, about what we would be jealous about, and our reaction to being jealous, I think certainly the amount we get jealous has to do with our value of ourselves. That if you have a good sense of yourself and your own worth, you'll not feel like you got knocked over. You'll feel like, I need to find out more about this. I need to stand up for this. And I love the part that you said, how much has to do with us. If they are actually straying, if they are actually looking around, are you as Dr. Laura says, are you sending them out hungry? Because a man or a woman you send out full, they're not looking for more food. Right. They have no need to look for food. Yeah.
That's a big one. So yeah, and we'll speak a bit later on about if you're single and you get into jealousy about somebody else outside you. That's another conversation entirely. But that part in a relationship where that sense of trust between partners, because there are more than enough relationships out there where one partner cheated on the other one. So we're talking about if you haven't got to that point, ideally, because if you have got to that point, it's a different conversation. But if you haven't got to that point where it's happening, but you're concerned the temptation is there that it might happen, then that's feedback. That's a clue. That's an indicator of like, well, so what is going on?
Yeah.
Of course, there are the people who are perpetually jealous for no reason whatsoever, and that's their own insecurity themselves and their dysfunction they haven't resolved. That's different. Again, so many layers. But if you're in a relationship with somebody and you start to feel this sense of uncertainty and you're starting to feel a little bit jealous, like something's going on, and because the other thing is sometimes that the partnership can be where you're jealous of your partner because they're so focused on their child, if you're in a relationship with somebody who's got a kid, or jealous of their work because they're so focused on their work. So jealousy has an interesting way that it weaves its way into so many different parts of our lives.
Right.
But the thing is, when it does show up, first of all, get clear, is it real? Like, does it have valid reason for being there? And secondly, first of all, if it isn't real, then what is disturbing your peace? Why are you feeling so violated or insecure? And work on yourself. Fill up your own tank, fill up your own battery so that you don't have that tendency to fall into it. And then the other part is, if there is validity to the jealousy, then ask some questions. Be willing to approach your partner and say, I'm feeling this unsettlement or this lack of unsettlement. No. Say, I'm just feeling uncomfortable. Try another word. And I'm feeling like maybe something's going on. Can we talk? be that willing to talk, not to say, I'm jealous because you're doing something. That's accusatory.
Mm-hmm.
But if you make it invitational, you might discover there's nothing going on. Or you might say, well, because they are feeling like you've left them alone. Like you're saying, it's like you've sent them out hungry. You've not been attending to them. So they're feeling a bit like antsy and want to look somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
And the jealousy you're feeling is because they've stopped directing attention at you as much.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
lots of opportunities to play with this.
Yes. And the other, to go along with that same really valid point of, because I'll ask these questions of, well, how was it in the beginning? Well, I kind of wondered in the beginning. I kind of was concerned in the beginning. And then, well, I just knew once we fell in love, it wasn't going to be that way anymore. Usually if it's that way in the beginning, it doesn't change. It really doesn't change. Even if you do, hopefully both people fall in love. Obviously the person I'm talking to fell in love.
Yeah.
And they didn't acknowledge that it didn't change, that it really was just like that from the beginning. They always flirted. They always were a workaholic. They always didn't call. I mean, we think that we get a ring on our finger or we move in together and poof,
it's all done.
Yeah, yes.
It's all settled.
It'd just be this new person. No, it doesn't work that way. Yeah, I was interesting. The same client I was talking to right before this, she has a dog and I have a cat. And I said, you really like your dog. And there's reasons you like a dog over a cat. And there's reasons I like a cat over a dog. I said, but you are asking your dog to be a cat. And that's not fair. It's not fair. You can't get your dog to use a litter box. You can't get your dog to be more independent. One of the reasons you have a dog is it gets you exercise when you go out and walk with them, and they greet you at the door, even if you just went out to get the mail, like you've been gone for 3 days. And my cat's like, oh, do you have food? Because I'm his staff. So if you have a dog, you need to be happy with the reasons that they're a dog. And if you want somebody that figuratively uses a litter box and is more independent, then be with somebody like that. And I think that we get all caught up in the chemistry and the excitement and the not wanting to be alone, and we pretend that it's not the reality. And it brings up lots of jealousy for those things that we aren't getting from what we wanted as a dog or what we wanted from a cat. I mean, I think it's really, it helped her take it out of the emotional part to have that discussion. And I think she really got it.
Yeah. So for those of people who don't have animals, let's explain it in a way that makes sense.
All right.
So it's like, are you looking to be with somebody who's going to be so devoted to you that you feel for all the time, which frankly can be smothering, and I've experienced that. Or you'll be with somebody so on their own 2 feet, they can do their own thing, and you can just walk along next to them. I've talked about in my work about relationships aren't facing each other this way. It's about side by side, ideally. But for some people, that's not what they're ready for.
No.
So, like you're saying, it's like, do you want to be with a partner who's more loyal to you, who's happy to see you even if you go to get the mail? Use that analogy.
Yeah.
Or someone basically who's just totally doing their own thing and looks up and go, oh, is there food?
Yeah. So true. And I've certainly talked to people that are in really successful, long marriages. They are joined at the hip. I mean, they do have independent jobs, but the rest of the time, I mean, they text all day and they talk all day, and it feeds both of them, and they're both so happy. And I'm thinking, oh, I couldn't do that. That isn't me.
Right.
And then there's some people who they really have such independent lives. They were the ones that I talked to the most after COVID or during COVID, because they're like, oh my God, we're together all the time. And they didn't quite know what to do with that. So how they could find their respective corners to be alone. And I am more in the middle of that. I like lots of concentrated attention periodically. That is what works for me. So when you're talking to somebody and you say, gosh, this is who I am and this is what I like, and then you really listen and believe to what they say, who they are and what they like, and you see, are you within a similar zip code,
Exactly. And that's the thing, is you need to know what your natural, that's the thing. I talk to my clients when they're single, and we help lay out the plan of what they want to have, what they're looking for, ideal and everything, all these qualities, is you've got to know what you really want first. Because a lot of times say, well, I want this, and this. Like, do you really want that?
Yeah.
Do you want a relationship with a partner who's with you, joined at the hip all the time, and you breathe each other's breaths? Like, it sounds romantic.
Yeah.
But After 3 weeks, maybe not so much. So
Yeah.
get clear about what your values are. And that's the thing I had to do for myself, is like, I know, I've been single for a long time because I really enjoy my own company, and I want a partner that's going to allow me to enjoy that and be together at the same time. So it's like you said, it's like in the middle of that.
Yeah.
It's not on one end of the spectrum or the other. It's in the middle of the range, so to speak.
So yes, so important, as you and I stress all the time, to figure out who you are
Yeah.
and what you need to be happy, and then be able to articulate it to the other person, and then listen to them and believe them. Believe what they tell you. And I'm going to give men the most credit for this, because you always tell the truth. If you're a good guy and we ask you a question, you tell us the truth. You just do. So, 98.999% of the time I have found it. And what's challenging is, yes, I admire that. So many things I admire about men, and that is one of them, because we aren't always truthful. We're like, well, what would they like me to say? And what would sound good if I said it? Instead of, say what you mean in a really nice feminine way, but please say what you mean.
Right.
Because this is one of the foundational ways that you can waylay some of those challenging, jealous feelings as your relationship goes along, because then you've said, this is what I need and want to keep me full, and not make me feel smothered. Because otherwise you are going to have jealous feelings about that, where they're spending too much time away, or you're not getting jealous, you're not getting to spend time with your friends. I mean, it really can be a really insidious thing in a relationship that I think lots of people don't think about. They just think about cheating. But jealousy comes in so many other forms, as you said in the very beginning.
It's true, yeah. In fact, one of the things I'll speak to, because you said much about how, you say that men are very honest. I think that in some ways, because, to put it in simple terms, we are very simple beings. So we basically don't have many options of choosing to say what we say. Whereas women have the advantage of having much more advantage, in quotes, and much more complexity, which means that when you communicate to men, you may give us so much breadth of information or so much story that goes with it. We don't know where the truth is within there. It's not so much you're lying, so much it's just that you have so much content that we have to go. So does that mean yes or no?
Yes. Where's the point? I know there's a point.
Exactly.
Yes. And we have lots of nuances and subtleties that we speak.
Absolutely.
Which is, how do you find the point in that? I mean, that's really like digging for gold. The needle in the haystack. Yeah, it's really hard.
Yeah.
So, but going back to relationships, and we will absolutely address being single, but in relationships, if you're starting to feel, can I trust them? Are they doing something that I need to ask more about? Ask. Please ask.
Yeah.
I mean, they always want to go like sneaking around and looking in their cell phone at their texts or their emails. And if in fact it's gotten to that place, it sounds like it's not a very healthy relationship at all. And then you're going to have a really different discussion. Certainly, if you came to me, we'd be having a really different discussion. I'm sure you feel that way too.
Yep, absolutely.
But speak up. And I really understand why people don't want to, because you don't want to hear the answer. If it really is the truth, you don't want to hear it. But walking around feeling awful, feeling unsettled, feeling that they are cheating somehow, emotionally, physically, they're not spending the time they could be spending with you with somebody else, then you need to find out. And the criteria that I give is, if you or your partner are having a conversation, text, phone, in person, with somebody that you could not have in front of your significant partner person, that's a problem.
Yeah. Unless that person's a vendor that's getting you a birthday present you don't want to tell them about. That's a different story.
It's a surprise.
Right.
As I said that went to my head. So thank you for saying that.
But it's true. It's true, yes.
Yeah. And generally, I have found when I've talked to people in this that's happened to them or in the middle of happening, it's because they're complaining about their relationship and the other person's sympathetically listening. So if they're complaining about their relationship, you're the person that can hopefully get to the bottom of it and do something with it, because it's your relationship.
Yeah.
So if you feel somebody's pulling away, or they're being distant, or they're not really clear about their whereabouts, or they leave the room when they get a text, ask. Please ask and own your part. You know, are you missing something? Is there something I need to do? Is there something I'm not doing? I mean, it might be something you can't do, but at least ask.
Right.
At least try to find out why it's not staying connected, why you're not staying connected in a relationship. Don't just get jealous and fly off the handle.
Well, that's the thing. So really, what jealousy is in some ways is a messenger.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you're willing to respond early on before you let it take over you, so you become green with envy yourself, like the Hulk, but you actually just you get that indication of like, why am I feeling that twinge? Why am I feeling that sensitivity going, something's off here? That's when you want to act at the moment, right at the beginning, because if it's gone down the road a ways, it's going to be much harder to ask the questions you need to ask.
And we do have good spidey senses about that.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's nothing. Sometimes they are sneaking around planning a surprise party. That could be happening. Or it could be that they are feeling unsatisfied, or you married somebody that's a cheater and you've been in denial about it. I think it's really essential to find out, as hurtful and challenging and hard and debilitating as it can be. It's better than staying in a bad relationship.
That's the thing, is some people think it's better to stay in the suffering relationship than it's to be on their own. And I'm a big proponent saying, no, that's not the way you want to live your life. If you're in a place where that is going on, where the person is cheating on you, or you feel you're not safe there, and they will not change for that to help you, or they will not give you clues on how you can change to be part of it.
Yes.
The only option is going to be basically to leave. And the truth is, once you do, you'll be happier and healthier being free, as much as it may not look like it right now, than staying in the place that's not working.
Yes. Yes. So we're back to you again, that you look at you and what is it you need and want and what's important to you, and how do you want to feel in a relationship?
Yeah.
Because as much as I say safety out in the world is so high in the front of our brains for women because we're smaller and less strong than the other half of the population, men and women across the board, the same amount want to feel safe and secure in their relationship. They really do. They don't want to worry and wonder and be concerned and be on the edge of their seat and waiting for the other shoe to drop and all those words that we've heard people say, or the rug pulled out from underneath them. That staying current. So you had even talked about that, and I've been using your business meeting, because I always talk to people that you need to have regular meetings, but you have a business meeting about the relationship.
Yeah.
Once a week. And what's so fun is it'll encourage people to do it if there's not some big, huge thing every single time. If you just stay up on like, wow, this was really fun. We just got to talk about all the fun things, because you do talk about the good things, and then you talk about things you have a question or a concern about. But if you do it on a really regular basis, generally it doesn't get overwhelming and huge and think like the world's going to come to an end if you open your mouth.
It is worth doing. And that's the thing, a lot of people get into the habit of being on autopilot in a relationship. So as we've said in different ways, I'm just saying another way just to give you another flavor, is that really when you get to the place where you recognize that maybe you haven't put present moment focus on the relationship, you're just in an autopilot, we're just cruising along.
Yeah.
That warning sign of jealousy is simply saying, hang on a second, stop doing the autopilot. Let's turn it off and go into manual mode so you can actually step in and say, let's have a conversation.
Yeah.
Let's talk and see where we are and see what we want to have.
And clear the air.
Exactly.
So, maybe sometimes jealousy can be our friend.
Indeed. In the right context.
We'll talk more about that when we come back from our break.
Indeed, we will.
And
we're
we're
back.
back talking about jealousy, that green-eyed monster, and how most
Yes.
of the time it is not your friend.
Right.
Yeah. It screws with you, it screws with the other person, it screws with the relationship. It's so unhealthy, especially if you don't deal with it. It's like weeds, it's a weed will start, and if you
Hmm.
don't pull it out and deal with it to the roots, it's just going to keep permeating your beautiful garden.
Right. And I mean, it's almost like putting. I'm thinking in food terms for some reason. I was thinking like it's like putting too much salt in the food. It's like it just makes it so you can't eat it. It's inedible.
Yeah, it's true. It's really true, because jealousy doesn't get less.
No.
If it's not addressed, it just gets bigger, and that's why it's called a monster. It just
Yeah.
feeds on itself.
It takes
Then
over.
you find other things that build on it. There's more evidence, and there's more stuff. And maybe, I think lots of times it's not facts, but if it's facts, you need to address them. So you need to address if it's not facts, and you need to address if it's facts. Either
Yep.
way. And it is a conversation that, who wants to have it?
Oh
Nobody signs up for that conversation.
no. A lot of people actually like to feel like they want to stay in the place of being wronged. I'm going to sit here and feel like I'm okay. I've been wronged, and you're the problem, and it doesn't change anything.
No, no. And you better fix it, but I'm not going to tell you about it.
Right. The things we do as human beings, we're such strange people.
We are very, yeah. It's like, oh, look at those earthlings. Look what they're doing now. So we talked a lot about jealousy and relationships and what you
Yes.
can do about it. And because we talk to mostly single people in our work, single people they have lots of reasons to have jealous feelings
Yeah.
about other people in relationships, what other people have, what they don't have. And I believe it can be, for me, it's always really good incentive of, well, look at what that other person has, whether it's a relationship or a car or shoes.
Job, house, whatever. Yeah.
Yes. Well, do I want that? Would that be something that I would want in my life? Okay, I do want that. How would I get that? And I really learned that there's these interesting kind of a division of personalities, and I'm not sure where it falls, like in Myers-Briggs. There's the ones who think there's only this amount. There's only this amount of love. There's only this
Yeah.
amount of things. And if I'm going to love a friend, well, but I can't be friends with them too, because there's only so much love that this person has to give. And I'm like, really? I'm the other side, that I think it's pretty unlimited. I think that
Yes.
we can have abundance in any way we want. We just have to choose it. And yes, there has to be the circumstances, and we are limited a little by our circumstances, but I have not felt that way. I've always thought, if I really want that, I could figure out how to get it. And I don't feel like they've taken it away from me because they have it.
Right.
But I know that that's a lot of the basis for people's jealousy feelings, that they think if they have it, I can't have it.
Well, that's the thing, is it is that sense of that somehow they took it from me.
Yes, that's a good way.
And in fact, that's one thing I know sometimes happens with jealousy, is that when your ex-partner falls in love with somebody else, that's when the real jealousy shows up. It's like, hang on, what did do? This whole lost feeling, because suddenly your ex, because it's like, if your ex gets in love with somebody first before you do, you start feeling jealous of that because something's wrong somehow. It's like, no, it's none of that's true. In fact, I mean, to jump into Abraham Hicks' teachings, it's like, when you see something that somebody else has that you want, you should be applauding them because they've shown you it's possible, which is not an easy one to get to for some people.
No.
But it really is profound and powerful when you get to the point where you can actually look at somebody else who has the car you want, or the job you want, or that relationship you want, and you can say to yourself, not necessarily out loud to them, but to yourself, that's so cool they have that, because I know that I can have the same thing.
Well, and you and I've had our transparent stories that we've told about our lives. So I'm the one that puts this. I was dating a guy for a while, and it really wasn't going to work out. And we both really agreed. And we parted ways in this wonderful way, and I introduced him to a friend of mine, and they hit it off. And I got all upset inside. And I'm like, who is this why are you acting like this? I was amazed. I hadn't even imagined I would have this feeling. So I had to phone a friend. I felt like I was on a game show and have this whole, I said, just listen, I'm going to have this whole spewing thing about, I don't want him, but how come she has him? And I really get that it's because I don't have somebody else new yet. And I had to have this whole blah, 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 blah about it.
Yep.
And then, so she said, and it's the friend that we'd say, okay, you always have to feel better when you're done. She goes, so do you feel better? I go, yeah, I do. But I was raging for zero reason.
Right.
Really concrete, factual reason, but I had such emotion about it. It was amazing, Barry. It was so amazing. So that hasn't ever happened since, but I now understand when people say that to me. I had it in spades.
No, I definitely had the comparison thing going on a lot of times with other people who had relationships. So it's like, she's with him, then why can't I? This thing in my head. So that's the green monster when it's self-destructive.
Yes.
It's funny because when you talk about the relationship, I was thinking about this past one I had a relationship where after we broke up, she got married to somebody else. I mean, we were in a relationship, we weren't married, but within 6 months, she was already with somebody else and moved in with him and the kids. And I was thankful that they did that. It's like, good, I can't get that one back.
Oh,
that wasn't jealousy. That was a different.
It was a permanent fix.
Yes, so I'm grateful for that. So the jealousy thing is another indication too. Because the thing is, when you look at something out there in the world that you don't have and you're jealous of it, that's a really good sign that you can actually see differently. Because it's the thing is this sense, and especially relationship, because you sometimes think that the person that is with the person you think you would want to be with, there is something like they're the only one out there. It's like, what if, and this is the thing I actually learned in my life many times over, is what if the one is taken, is just getting him out the way so something better comes along? I have a list of a litany of experiences I've had, gifts, things in my life, gifts that have happened to me where the first thing that I was looking forward to having didn't happen, and the second thing that showed up was even better than the first one. That happened with careers, with travel, with relationships, with homes, with cars, everything. So I'm very clear that that's a definite lesson to really be less attached to that thing I think I want. And not be jealous of the fact that somebody else has it, because that may be a gift they're giving you.
Yes. And it's happened to me personally enough times that I keep assuring my clients the next thing that comes will be better, because you're improving. You're getting more of yourself, more into your authentic self, more into your, yes, I can see the good things from that. And there were things that weren't there that could never be there if you accept it, back to the cat dog thing, that this is who they really are. And then you're going to find somebody that's even more of a match the next time, because you're now in that space, physically, emotionally, mentally, that you're going to now meet the person that's the better match for you, and you're a better match for them.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the thing I look at my history, my relationships, is every single one was definitely an improvement over the previous one. Not to insult my early relationships, but I wasn't choosing at that level at that point. So I know that when one doesn't work out, that it's not saying I want to hurry and be over, this one be over with. You know, it's like let's get this out of the way. So I want something better. But the recognition is that when we do the work, and it's the key, when we do the work to transform, to heal, to grow, to thrive, our choice is up level.
Yes.
So who we tend to find matches that at a new level, whereas before that doesn't fit anymore.
Yeah. And we wouldn't have attracted or been attracted to that next level until we ourselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I never give myself a hard time about that. I couldn't have done it any sooner.
No.
I needed to have gotten this next lesson, this next step, this next piece of the journey. Yeah.
It's huge.
So one of the other things you touched on really quickly in the beginning is when you get in a relationship with someone with children, and you can, if they're minors, you can never be a higher priority. You can never, and you don't want to be a higher priority than a minor child. They're still raising that child. I mean, when I married my husband and I was now living with a 16-year-old girl, I knew my priorities were below her. Even though I was the wife, even though my husband loved me madly, she, not in a spoiled way, attention-wise and schooling-wise and all of that, money-wise, had to be a higher priority until she was 18. And I was okay about that. It was very clear to me. And I do talk to lots of people who are quite offended that they don't want to spend more time with them and that they don't want to introduce them right away.
Oh
They're
yeah.
very jealous that they don't get to spend time with the kids right away. And I said, but they've already lost one person, whether it's through divorce or death.
Hmm.
And they don't, I mean, you're lovely. Of course they're going to like you. We don't want them to get attached to you and have you disappear. I mean, we hope it works out, but it might not. So it's important to put that jealousy off to the side because the kid's priority has to be the highest.
Absolutely. And that also, and this is, I mean, I've had a couple of relationships with women who had kids, and in one case with the kids, they became good friends. We became good friends, basically. It's like I became their guide, friend, support versus their dad. It was never going to be the role. And it was ultimately healthy, and she was a widow, so there was no other guy in the picture. But in a relationship, there was definitely a clarity that the kids came first. And frankly, it was easier for our relationship to work when I didn't try to take their place. And that was the biggest aha that I had in the moment, was to recognize that my role in that relationship was to hold the space for all of them, so that she could be a healthy mother to her children, especially because the father was no longer there. But also I could be a friend with the kid. In fact, the son, who was the younger of the two, he taught me more about video games than I knew at the time. And so I got to watch him play games on the computer, and that was actually our way of bonding. But it was only in one place, because it's like I wasn't taking over any responsibility or trying to usurp his mother or trying to do anything else. It was like that was healthy.
Yeah.
And so to be in a relationship where the priorities are straight, because that's what it is, it's a prioritization thing, is it's not that I was less than, just that I was outside the framework. And so when you're with somebody who's got kids, to recognize that when they're focused on their children, that doesn't make you less than anything else at all. It just means that's a unit that you're working with there versus one individual person. And so treating that family dynamic as a unit means that you have a relationship with all of it versus just the partner.
Yes.
And that makes it healthier to approach that. And so jealousy doesn't even, frankly, jealousy doesn't show up in the picture, because there's no need to be in that place. Because now, let me qualify that and frame it slightly. If the parent, your partner, is smothering the children and consuming them so much, there's no room for you in the relationship. That may be a clue that maybe that isn't the relationship you want to be in anyway. So there's a range on that one too. I mean, I was grateful for the relationship I was in, that, we had time for each other, separate from the kids, and so on and so forth. But understanding is like there are still clues in the relationship where, rather than being jealous, you should be thankful because you're going, this relationship that this person has with their kid is much more immersive and consuming than I can participate in. I choose to leave, to back out, because that's a healthy way of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So be clear that when you're making a choice in a relationship, and it does involve kids, what are you looking forward to being there for? What's your choice to be in? So that way you don't even deal with jealousy, because you know right away if it fits or it doesn't fit. Same as if you choose partnerships. What is it you're looking for in a partner? I know for me, I'm clear when I'm being in a relationship with somebody who's got over their ex, because if they're invested in their ex, I don't want to be jealous of that. That's not healthy. And I won't be. I mean, I'm just not clear. It doesn't work. As much as I might like that person, going, if she still has a thing for her ex, I'll say, look, when you've got that out the way and resolved, then let's talk.
Yes. So there's another piece of jealousy. So is there facts to be jealous of the other person, or is there not facts? So I had a guy tell me how he took out a woman a few times, and she's a widow, and she's seemed to have kind of, moved on. It'd been 3 years. So she invited him over to the house for dinner. And everywhere in the house was his picture with a lit candle in front of it. So you need to see, has that person moved on enough? Because no, you wouldn't be jealous because they can't show up at the door, but there's no room in their heart. So I think people want to use the word jealous for that, but that doesn't really fit. So to reframe how you think about it, when you say, oh, there's no, like, if they're that nuclear attached family where there's like no room. So you say, oh, not jealous. Gosh, it's just there's no room for me. There's no place for me in this.
Well, you might feel the pang of jealousy because you suddenly feel like their energy and focus is on somebody else that's not you.
Yes.
then you can feel jealous. But it's a little bit when you start really getting clear. It's like, what is it they're refocusing on? Oh, that's a totally negative way of being. I can't be jealous of that.
No.
So it is a choice about realizing that jealousy is not the word, but you might feel initially that pang because jealousy in some ways is like an early warning system.
Yes.
Or I should say, you can use jealousy. Yes, you can use jealousy when you make it your friend as an early warning system, where when it shows up, when you get the initial like that sort of when the hair goes up on the back of your hand, you start getting hackles and going, okay, what's going on? Ask the question, what am I feeling jealous about?
Yeah.
So you can choose a different path instead of going down the path of jealousy and resentment and upset feelings and everything else.
So I'd like to have this whole male-female conversation about the piece of jealousy where men like looking at women. You notice them when they walk by, right? I mean, that's such a touchy subject between men and women. And I think it's really important to talk about that because, boy, that green-eyed monster pops up then a lot.
Oh, the thing about where men think they're so coy because they're looking at this girl going by from the corner of their eye, but the woman can already tell he's looking at her, and he doesn't think he's like, I didn't do it, didn't move. And it's so clear. It's like the reality comes down to. It's funny because this is something I remember as a kid. My mum said this about my dad. I remember I must have been 7 or 8 years old when she said it. It was something like, because she said, he looks at other women, and she said, he window shop as much as he wants, just doesn't go in and buy anything.
Yes.
And it sounded so simplistic to say it that way, but that's the reality. Is that noticing? It's like it's not investment. It's like I look at. I mean, when I have my car, I'm got a car right now. But when I had my car, I would notice other cars out there. Were like, oh, that's a cool car. That's a cool car. I wasn't jealous of the person who had the car. I just liked appreciating the car.
Yeah.
So in a way, not that I'm saying women like cars, maybe. There's appreciation of the fact that I look at these women that are beautiful. Mm-hmm. Because the other thing I'm very aware of, I know many beautiful women, some have been clients, some have been friends, and some I wouldn't dare be either one with, where the beauty on the outside doesn't match who they are on the inside. Mm-hmm. So just noticing it from this is how we get the men off the hook. So we as men, when we have to notice women out there, we're just simply enjoying the physical appearance because we are generally visual beings. We notice things because being the hunter type, where we're scanning for targets.
Always.
So all these women we're noticing are possibles. They're not definite. So there's I mean, to hopefully put women's hearts at ease, like we're not making women jealous, but the truth is we enjoy the view.
Yes, you do.
And when women get that, and that's what it is.
Thank you. Because we had to bring it up.
Right.
Because it comes up all the time. And I use the car analogy as well. Because generally, as a guy, and you said it so perfectly, you have about the same emotion. Cool Porsche, nice butt. Red car, red hair. I mean, really.
In a way, yeah.
You don't want to take all the cars home. You don't want to take all the women home. You're perfectly content with the car that you have. You're perfectly content with the cute butt and red hair or whatever that you have with you. You're just looking. You're just looking. So the other thing, so Cece's saying we need to wrap up, but I want to say for guys, because you mentioned you appreciate as women. I don't have a problem with that. And I'm even okay. And I've even said, I'm okay with you going, just come back to me.
Yeah. Don't go wandering too far.
Come back. Focus on me. I'm fine with that. Don't go
wandering off.
No, for a really long time.
Right.
Come back to me, and I'm perfectly fine with that. So but I know that's something that pops up in women all the time where they feel jealous. So thank you for being so eloquent, Mr. Y chromosome person.
I've been there many times. I can say those things from experience.
Yeah, because I wanted to have a man say it because I say it all the time and it's from my girly voice. So I want a guy that reassures women that it's really the truth. It's really the truth.
So you can take that segment of the video and give it to all your female clients. So they know from a male point of view what's going on.
From the horse's mouth, as they say.
As they say.
Selby would only tell you the truth, and this is the truth. It really is the truth. Absolutely. I mean, there's another, we did talk about the hungry thing, and if they're not getting physically satisfied, then, but they're not going to, they still don't even, you're not going to be blatant when we're with you. You might be more blatant when we're not, though, if you're hungry.
Right.
So, yeah.
So we cover both. So I think we covered the bases. We're good.
Yeah, I think so. We do. Yeah. I hope so. But gosh, if you have any questions about jealousy that we haven't covered or you want a deeper conversation about it, we're here. So the
Indeed.
way to talk to me is to go to my website, which is www.theperfectcatch.com. At the top, click on what's holding you back from love, and we can have a conversation about what's happening that you like or don't like, and what isn't happening that you wish was different in your relationship or lack of relationship. And you can also reach me through Facebook. I answer lots of dating questions on Facebook. And I'm also on Pinterest and LinkedIn and Twitter and YouTube. And is there another one?
Instagram.
Instagram. Thank you. You're so good at that.
I don't remember how many there are.
Mr. Selby, tell people how they can reach
Yes.
you, please.
That was a nice segue, by the way, how you got into that one. So well said.
I've been working on it.
Yes. So for me, if you want to find me, you can go to my website, which is my name, which is barryselby.com. And at the top, you can click on Let's Chat, so you can find out more about how to work with me. We can have a conversation, get on my calendar, and help you get some guidance where you want to go, what you want to have. You can email me at barry@barryselby.com. My social media is, well, apart from Instagram, which is the real Barry Selby, since my name got taken through a mistake over there. And on Facebook, you can follow me on my business page, which is Barry Selby, the author. But everywhere else, Pinterest, LinkedIn, YouTube, anything else? That should be everything. You can just find me at Barry Selby. In fact, if you go to my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Barry Selby, I have tons of videos, including replays of the show, available for you to watch and catch up on all the teachings. And yes, I do answer questions too, so you can reach out to me and get some help.
Great. So we're here every Thursday, 1 o'clock Pacific, 4 o'clock Eastern, and all the other times in between, talking about dating and relationship questions. So let us know if you have questions that you'd like us to answer in future shows. That would be perfect.
Oh, yeah. We have a few topics up our sleeve, but we're always open to more.
So bye for now. We'll see you next week.